Hello everyone, welcome to our continuing coverage of the Halo 4 campaign. This time we are going to be covering the 4th mission, Infinity. And this takes place in a beautiful jungle area, in my opinion. This is probably right up there with Requiem in terms of just a beautiful play style, or a play area that you can just walk around in, and it's fantastic. And to join me on this adventure is Mythic Tyrant. Welcome to the show,
ladies and gentlemen.
Not much. We are excited about Halo 4, and we're glad to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
I want to say this may be your first time on the show. I'm not...
I think it is.
Okay. So, welcome to Podtacular, the craziness that is.
Thank you very much. I really am honored to be here.
So, since this is your first time on our show, why don't you give our audience a brief introduction of who you are, what you do in the Halo community, and kind of where you lurk around on websites and all that good stuff.
Well, I lurk everywhere, but I can't put that on the podcast. Basically, I am the father of Mythic difficulty, which is legendary, all skulls on, no deaths, single segment for each individual mission. You can find my walkthroughs on mythictyrant.com. Currently, I have my legendary walkthrough for Halo 4 up. That is each and every mission of Halo 4 on legendary, single segment, no deaths. So if you have any trouble getting through Halo 4 on legendary, that is the place to go. I have had my Mythic community up and running for about 5 years now, and I am very proud to run it. I have some excellent dedicated members. Shout out to RC Master, RA Soldier, just some really great people who just encouraged me to keep going. I have been in love with the Halo franchise, even as it has passed from Bungie to 343 Industries. I think 343 Industries has done an excellent job carrying the torch, and I'm very happy to be a part of their campaign.
Very, very nice. So dig into a little bit of what Mythic difficulty truly means, because I think for a lot of people that don't exactly know what it is, they maybe have heard about it before, but give us the nuts and bolts and the nitty-gritty of what Mythic difficulty truly is and how much of a pain it can be.
I'd be happy to, Dustin. Listen, all right, so Mythic is not necessarily for everybody. It's for those who are truly in love with the campaign and just want to extend the life of their game. Mythic, again, is legendary, all skulls on, single segment, no death, which is what the Iron Skull is for. But, a lot of people try to get around that via the save and quit glitch. What's the best way to say this? You really have to be in love with the campaign to do it. And I have loved the campaign for so long through Halo 3, ODST, Reach, and Halo 4 that I have dedicated my time and everything just to completing this. So again, it's not for everybody, but if you want to extend the life of your game, that's what it's for. Now, if you're having trouble, a good way to check out my Mythic guide so far is on the website halo.bungie.org, currently referred to as HBO, not the channel.
Yeah, we're good friends with those guys over there.
They're awesome.
Great group of guys.
Claude is like my second father, Louis Blue. And he has been so kind to publish my guides on his site. You can find them there for Halo 3, ODST, and Reach, and I'm currently in the works for the Halo 4 Mythic Guide as well. It's certainly not easy, but there is a reward for it in Halo 4. There's a really cool emblem called the Lazo emblem, which, again, Lazo stands for Legendary All Skulls On. Now, you don't necessarily have to follow all of the Mythic rules to get it. Again, the difference between Mythic and Lazo is Mythic is legendary, all skulls on, no deaths, permission. Lazo, you can technically save and quit, but I don't recommend it. It kind of defeats the purpose of the challenge. Again, I've been doing this since 2007. It's an excellent way just to extend the life of your game, and by the end of it, you just feel so rewarded. It's excellent, and I want every single person out there to get their most out of the Halo game.
Alrighty. So in Halo Reach, before we move on to the mission, guys, I know you're eager to hear that, but before we go there, in Halo Reach, there was one key difference in Lasso that was not, I guess, held throughout what Lasso is supposed to be, and that is the inclusion or exclusion of the blind skull.
That is true.
So is that only a Reach thing, or is that kind of across the board?
That is exclusively Reach, and the reason why they did that is because they ran their first challenge on Winter Contingency, which is the first mission in Halo Reach, and so many people complained about the blind skull that Bungie caved in and said, okay, in the future, laser challenges will not include the blind skull, but that is only Halo Reach. That does not include the rest of the games. That does not include Halo 4. Halo 4, if you want that laser emblem, you have to turn the blind skull on. I know it's a pain in the butt. For me personally, I've played so long with the blind skull that I've learned where the reticle is, and it's a slightly different from first person to vehicle. Whereas in first person, it's about an inch below the center of the screen, and in the vehicle, it's in the dead center of the screen. But if you want a tip for someone who's not so familiar with using the blind skull, you could put a little bit of sticky tack on the screen, which will help you pinpoint all those snipers, all those enemies. But to be honest with you, the biggest handicap of the blind skull is not being able to monitor your health or seeing your radar.
Or grenades or ammo count.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're really put at a huge disadvantage.
You are, but I got to tell you, as long as I've been playing Mythic, if you play Heroic and Legendary before you try Mythic or Lazo, you kind of get used to it, and you start counting the shots in your head without even realizing it. So it is entirely possible, even without that sticky tack. It's just a matter of how well you know the game.
So, does the health monitor beeping still get set off? Because I don't think it does, or it didn't in Halo Reach.
It doesn't. Basically, the strategy I've always gone with is always assume your shields are down. So if you get a chance, melee an enemy to get your health back. There is another way to get your health back as well. If you're in a mission like Reclaimer, you can hijack a vehicle. Hijacking a vehicle also increases your health or brings it back to full shields. If you melee the Lich, which is a new vehicle for Halo 4, that will also bring back your shields, very similar to the Scarabs in Halo 3 and Halo 3 ODST. So there are multiple ways to do it. The only real disadvantage in Halo 4 is you don't have anything like a regenerator or a health pack, which will also regenerate your health. So you have to strictly rely on either meleeing enemies or hijacking vehicles to get your health back.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you for the introduction. We will move on to what this episode is supposed to be about, which is Infinity.
Awesome.
As I said before, this is the 4th campaign mission, and this is right after you get out of the core of Requiem, so you're back on the surface of Requiem.
Correct.
You're still inside the outer shell. You're still within the Dyson sphere, or
no, you hit it right on the money.
Yeah, so you're still there. And if you remember from E3, this is the opening cutscene that we all saw when they did the campaign demo. So you see Infinity coming through the clouds. They're coming in to crash down. And, of course, you have the Didact ship pop up. And it's like, ooh, go find this. Go research this thing. So that's that cutscene. You guys have probably seen it over and over and over again since it's been in just about everywhere leading up to the game. So we're going to go ahead and pass that. We see Chief walking through the forest. And then we pop right into our first-person view. And there isn't the fancy little animation as there was before in the game, so they did kind of make a few changes. But the first thing that you come up on is a group of Covenant that are just standing around, and actually it's Prometheans.
That is correct.
It's Promethean Knights that are just standing there kind of observing this body on the ground, and then they teleport away, and there's an IFF tag that you have to go and pick up, see who it is, and it's Holo J. Jimenez. Nice Mexican influence in there. Way to go, 343. You got your cultural diversity. So
gotta love how far humanity's come in the year 2553.
I know, right? At least we've all managed to come together and bond in a certain way.
We have. I love that.
So that's all fine and dandy, I think. Yes.
Absolutely. I am totally game for that. Thank you, 343, for inspiring our future.
So as we move on, we just walk through the forest, and I would at least take some time as you're just starting out, just kind of look around, look at the Infinity, look at all the jungle area. Just take a moment to take in how beautiful this game is.
It's gorgeous.
Because
It's the first time we've seen a jungle scene like that since Sierra 117, and this is, I would say, 10 times more beautiful than that. 343 did an excellent job with the graphics.
yeah, it's wow. Pushing the technology on the Xbox 360 as it currently stands and putting a game out like this, that speaks wonders in a lot of different areas. Granted, they kind of did skimp on a few others, but that's for another show. We've kind of discussed that already, but there's still more discussion to go on, and there will be discussions probably all the way up until Halo 5 gets released. But anyways, back to the campaign. As you walk through the jungle, you'll be going over branches, through creeks, through meadows, and all that good stuff. Your first group of enemies you come up on is a group of crawlers that are just kind of walking around on the branches. So you can pop all of them in the head, pull out your Magnum, or whatever you have is, I think it's a BR that you start with.
Magnum.
Well, what's the primary? Magnum's your secondary.
Magnum and AR is what you start out with, but you can grab a DMR from the bodies that the knights are observing.
Ah, that's right. Okay, so DMR. So you walk around, you just headshot all the crawlers, and in the first area of enemies that you fight, there's going to be one knight that comes up. So if you're playing on heroic or anything less, it's pretty easy to take out. Legendary is not too bad either. Just make sure you can use some of the trees and the branches to have some cover when you're shooting them, and if you need to dive back into anything. So walk around a little bit more, you come up on another section, and there's some more weapon options that you can pick up. I think there's an assault rifle and a shotgun that you can pick up if you want.
There is.
And there will be a watcher that's floating around, and he'll go over to an area and start to spawn up crawlers. If you can shoot him out quickly, then you can prevent those extra crawlers from spawning. And then there's a binary crawler that will get you if you're not careful.
God, I hate that guy. He reminds me of the Jackal snipers in Halo 2. I mean, those guys were magically accurate. They did make binary crawlers and, for that matter, binary knights, although that's a little bit, sketchy, a little bit more fair just for the fact that they take a second to charge their binary rifles. But if their rifles hit you, no matter where they hit you, just like in Halo 2, it is a one-shot kill.
You're
so
toast.
You have to know exactly where they are in the campaign in order to take them out.
Right. Luckily, they're only in the first 2 checkpoints, but those are probably the 2 most difficult parts, in my opinion.
There's actually one in the holdout area, too, and he's very
really?
difficult to spot. A lot of times the Marines take him out before you do.
Okay.
But sometimes they don't.
We'll get to that a little later.
Absolutely.
But the binary crawler that is the one that you really want to look out for here is right in the area where you get the shotgun, where you can pick up those other weapons. If you look to your very right, like you can actually stay within the area and go up to the wall that's on the left-hand side. If you go there and look all the way to the right, you'll see kind of a pathway that goes up somewhere. The crawler will be sitting right there. And if you guys have played the campaign and if you've looked and paid attention, you can see that when they're charging, they have this kind of circular thing that comes around them. Yep. So it's not like when you have it out and you have this beam that's shooting out of your eyes. What's the X-Men guy?
Cyclops.
Yeah, like Cyclops. But they have a little kind of charging sphere similar to the ones that are on the turret. So you can see if they're charging up for a shot at you, it's a time to duck back or shoot them in the head before they get you if they're a crawler. Granted, if they're a knight, then you may want to pray for your life.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, I should say that once you take out this crawler, which should be your top priority, as Dustin mentioned, you should grab his binary rifle because it will definitely come in handy for the Promethean knights that you have to fight later.
Right. And those things are a pain on Legendary.
Yeah, oh my god, they are so overpowered. What the hell?
Yeah, they're not pleasant to deal with.
They're like a combination of the elites and the brutes from Halo 2. And I mean that in the fact that they have shields like elites that also recharge, But in Halo 2, it took multiple headshots to kill a brute. So they've got the shields of an elite, but the multiple headshots of a brute from Halo 2, and that's just wrong.
Well, the headshots in here, it's like if they have their mask closed, it's not technically a headshot.
No,
But
it
if they're
isn't.
open, then it's a headshot, which is kind of similar to the Bruces. If they have their little metal thing on their crown or whatever.
Yeah, their little helmets.
Yeah, if they have those on, the headshots don't count. But once you pop that off, you can pop them in the head once, and then it's a headshot. But yeah,
Easily. But what makes
they're a
it
pain.
worse is they have those advantages, but they also have one-shot weapons such as the binary rifle, which you mentioned, and later on in the game, incineration cannons.
And scattershot too.
And the scattershot. The scattershots aren't so bad, but the binary rifle can take you out from half the map away, and not to mention they can teleport. They have so many armor abilities that it's not even funny. It's just
And then
they're a great idea. The Prometheans are a great idea, but the way they set them up, they're just way too overpowered right now.
Yeah. It's tough.
This is what makes
To put it
Infinity
easy.
one of the toughest missions in the game.
Oh, I feel you. And as I was telling you pre-show, I was trying to do one of the weekly challenges for the campaign, and it was to do a certain skulls on. I think it was like Thunderstorm, Tilt, Mythic,
Oh, Jesus.
Famine, and something
Tilt and
else.
Mythic alone will make it a challenge.
Yeah, it was crazy, but it was those skulls. It's the typical 5 for your weekly challenges for the campaign. It's those, and it's on Legendary, of course.
Right.
And of course, I'm fighting knights, but the part where it's Rally Point Bravo, which we'll get to in a bit, it's just like, how do you take those things out?
There is an easy way that one of my colleagues, R Soldier 313, found. And if you use the catch skull, you can catch them in the animation and rush them. And as you do, you can get up behind them very easily for a very quick and simple assassination. Now, this does take a fair amount of practice, but once you nail it, the knights become a piece of cake.
I'm just worried about the other knights that are shooting at you while you're trying to do this.
Well, fortunately, that's one of the places that Infinity shines over a mission such as Midnight, where there's knights everywhere. In Infinity, typically when you encounter a knight, you're only encountering 1 or 2 at a time, minus the holdout section.
Yeah.
For example, the first few sections that you're talking about, while they're doing their grenade launch, you can easily get up behind them. Their grenades are very easy to dodge. And when you do that, you can easily get up behind them, land that assassination, and the knight is history. So when you do those challenges, make sure you include the catch skull.
Okay, good. Thank you for pointing that out. I'll have to use that in the future.
Absolutely. In fact, you can check it out on my Midnight 1.5 video.
Nice little plug.
Sure.
So as we move throughout the rest of the campaign, we come up on another armor ability that just happens to fall on the ground. There's actually a knight there, but if you're slow, you'll actually just see the remnants of a knight. You know, the little kind of sparkly thing where
they light up like Christmas every time.
the little flashy lightning thing, whatever you want to call it, when the Watchers can come by and revive them. You'll see that, and then there will be a waypoint that Cortana puts out. It's like, wait, what'd that thing drop over there? So you go pick it up, and of course it's Promethean vision. And she goes into this whole thing, is like, oh, this is how they've been seeing through the fog, and blah, blah,
Which
blah,
is
blah,
basically thermal vision, like Predator.
Yeah. So it makes at least the next part a lot easier to deal with, because they specifically made this where it's really, really dense fog and you can barely see anything.
And worst of all, you have binary crawlers all over the place in the next area.
3 of them.
3 of them, yes.
Luckily, when I was doing my run-through, I picked them all off, just one shot each, and I took them out easy. Those are easy to take out because those are just headshots.
Right, and you have the advantage of, again, Promethean vision, and at that point, you also have the option to use the binary rifle that you picked up from the previous crawler.
Right. But you don't even need to use that. You can just use a Magnum to take those out.
Easily.
Yeah. So a good thing to point out here, I guess, while we're kind of on the topic, is whenever you're going through this, use something like a Magnum or a weaker weapon on the crawlers and save your more powerful ammunition for the knights and the Watchers.
Dustin could not be more right. In fact, a lot of the Promethean crawlers drop a weapon called the bolt shot. which may not seem that powerful, but the bolt shot is actually very effective against Promethean crawlers. And best of all, each time you kill a crawler, you have more ammo for that weapon.
Although the weapon clip isn't too big. And
It's not. It's about the size of a Magnum, but
the
as
accuracy
long as
isn't
you don't
great.
use the overcharge, you're in pretty good shape.
Right. And the overcharge doesn't work against the Promethean Knights. That's another thing
The overcharge is completely useless in campaign.
The scatter shot is better if you're
The
fighting against
scatter
the
shot
Promethean
is a
Knights.
priceless weapon in campaign, especially against knights.
Yeah. I will say that's probably one of the weapons that you will want to go for while you're going through the campaign, is just having one of those in your back pockets when you're fighting against knights or any kind of Promethean enemy throughout the campaign. Is one of those things that you just really need to look at doing whenever you find one, and picking it up and keeping it available to you.
Duststorm could not be more right. You know, if you get the Promethean Knights at a extremely close range, you can potentially take them out of one shot. If you want to be in a safe range where they cannot strike you with their, I guess, sword or whatever it is on their arm,
Blade or
you can
whatever.
take them out in only 2 shots. So the scatter shot is an excellent weapon. In fact, again, not to advertise myself too much, but if you look at my Midnight Legendary video, even though I use the Tilt Skull, I use the scatter shot quite a bit on Tower 2 against the Promethean Knights, where there's an abundance of them, and it's extremely effective. So to Dustin's point, yes, it is a great weapon to have, and if you find it, it's a great secondary weapon.
Agreed. So moving through the dense, foggy part, to definitely take out as many crawlers as you can, and then focus on the knights. They will spawn up the little auto turrets, the auto sentries. You probably don't have to worry about those as much as you think. They'll peg you, but if you just focus on taking out the knights, you'll usually have time to duck by if your shields are getting weak, and then their shields will probably be close to gone, if not already gone. And you can watch your radar if you're doing heroic, and you can see, or any difficulty really, and you can see when those things will pop, and then you can peer back over. Or if you manage to take out the knight before he takes you out, then that auto sentry automatically disappears.
Exactly. In fact, there's a benefit to actually having them have auto turrets. Once you take out that last knight with the auto turret before the fog clears, you can pick up that auto turret and use it for yourself later.
Yeah, and I've watched, actually watched Nick and Eli's guide just because it was readily at hand. Sorry.
No, it's okay. He has a segmented run, by the way, which I love watching Eli's videos. They're extremely entertaining, but by the way, he does segmented runs, which means he has died an untold number of times to get through the mission. But I will say that I enjoy watching his videos quite a bit.
Yes. Not to say that your videos aren't good either.
My videos are
his videos
awesome.
Are actually like the true. If you want to do this right, this is how you do it. Videos. This is for the hardcore. This is serious people.
Basically, the reason why I do my missions single segment is to prove that my strategies work. Because if they're segmented, that means you can basically throw yourself an infinite number of times at the enemy and eventually survive. You can, pull off all sorts of tricks. But if you go through single segment, that means that the strategies work. Maybe not necessarily every time, but I'd say about 95% of the time.
Yeah, okay. I agree with that. Oops, that was my keys. But yes, that's to your point, as you're going through the rest of the fog, as you're ascending out of the dense marsh or whatever you want to call that down there, definitely pick up one of those auto sentries, because it will be useful later. You'll make your way back up, then you come to another section which I kind of really despise, although there is some shortcuts around that. But if you're going through it like most every other person, there's another binary rifle crawler up on one of the tree branches. I think it's like the second one back. So as you enter the area, you'll actually have an area on the left that has some frag grenades and some ammunition that you can pick up. And then if you go to the right, which is actually where you're supposed to go, you'll see more tree-like structures. You'll see some knights in the distance. And there's actually one binary crawler up on one of the top parts, I think, of like the second tree that's out there.
Yes.
So make sure you take care of him quickly.
Now, typically your Marines actually do that for you, but yes, definitely keep your eye on him, because Sometimes your Marines don't quite make it. And again, binary rifle on legendary does kill you in one hit. Although I will put this little tip out there. If you're playing with tilt and mythic, as Dustin was doing for the challenge, you can actually survive a single binary round as long as you have full shields.
That's crazy.
So it is
Interesting.
possible, but yes, to Dustin's point, in the holdout area, which I believe is what he's talking about right now, there is one binary crawler on that branch that basically reaches across that area.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. So make sure you take him out quickly. I need to backtrack for a second. And actually, from your transition point to out of the Foggy Marsh area up to this point, there is another IFF tag that you have to go pick up.
That is
So
correct.
forgot about that. I mean, it's there. You can't miss it. But just a quick point out.
Now, you should have plenty of DMR ammo when you exit that little cutscene because right before then, there's a DMR crate. And actually, if you get the DMR ammo, then activate the little cutscene, or not the cutscene itself, but the little remote trigger that says we have friendlies nearby and whatever, it actually spawns more DMR ammo. So you can go into the next area with full DMR.
Oh,
If you
nice.
want to, in the next area, there are two knights that initially spawn, and you can take them out from a distance with a DMR. You don't have to worry about the catch skull or anything, which makes it very, very easy. You don't have to worry about that grenade assassination or anything like that.
Well, when you're going up, well, when you're doing it on Mythic with all those skulls on, it's hard to take them out with just a DMR.
And you're exactly right. So this is just for the legendary folks. So if you're doing it with
Yeah.
Mythic and Tilton, yeah, you'll still need to master that grenade assassination. And the best part about that Mythic or grenade assassination is if you are playing on Mythic, which includes the Black Eye Skull, when you get that assassination, you recharge your shields in full. One of the benefits of playing with Black Eye is as soon as you melee an enemy, your shields recharge instantly. I've actually gotten into the bad habit of trying to melee elites because they're easier to kill in Halo 4 than in Reach. So if you're doing a little dance around the elites and you just keep hitting them and hitting them and hitting them, your shields recharge every single time you hit the elite, whether you've killed them or not, as opposed to Halo 2. So you can basically do the same thing with knights. The difference is with knights, as opposed, or basically as it pertains to Infinity, is that knights have a very strong melee attack with their sword. I believe it's on their left or right hand. I
It's on their
can't
left,
remember.
and that blade is a pain.
Oh my God. See, that's what I love about the knight assassinations is you rip that blade
Yeah,
off,
that
just stab it right into him.
I couldn't agree with you more. That's one of the most satisfying assassination animations in the game. It's just 'cause I did it twice last night during a Spartan Ops run through, and it's
Nice.
just backing them up, ripping the arm off, and then just shoving it right into him. It's just
And they
so
just
satisfying.
vaporize.
Yes. So yeah, so good.
It feels very good to assassinate a knight, especially if it's a battle wagon or a commander.
I don't know what specifically those are yet. I haven't
Oh, well,
I
allow
haven't
me to
looked into the lore that specific. I just know there's a knight. I know like they have the different classes based on their weapon. I just don't know what the classes are specifically called.
it's not even based on the weapon, and I found that out the hard way. There are three classes of knights. There's the regular knight, and typically they have light rifles and scatter shots, which you'll see plenty of them in the Mission Infinity, since that's what our main subject is. Um, the battle wagons almost always, in fact, I'm pretty sure always, have scatter shots. And you can tell because they have spikes on their back and there's sort of a little bit of electricity surging through their spikes. They're also black. The commanders, which only appear in the mission, as far as I know, midnight, and I'm sure in many episodes of Spartan Ops, actually their backs are on fire. Now, typically they're associated with having incineration cannons, but the
Yeah, I know.
final
Yeah.
knights that you fight on midnight are, believe it or not, commanders, and they have light rifles. And I found that out the hard way. And the way you can tell is the incineration cannon takes out both battle wagons and regular knights in a single hit, but commanders take at least two.
Okay. Alrighty then. What about the insect-looking ones?
Oh, they all look like they're insect looking.
Well, the more insecty looking one, the one that's kind of tinted green.
Are you talking about the ones that sort of buzz a little bit and then spawn watchers?
Well, that's one of the classes, but then there's another one that's more. It's more bug-like.
Usually, I think the more bug-like ones, at least in my opinion, are the just the regular lancers. Those are the ones that typically wield light rifles or suppressors.
No, it's not Lancer. It's definitely a different one.
It is?
Yeah,
There are only four
I
that I'm
encountered it in
aware of. There's the Lancer, the Battle Wagon, the Commander, and then the Binary Rifle Knights. Now, fortunately, the Binary Rifle Knights only appear in 2 missions. Infinity, again, which is our mission right now, is one of them. The other one is Midnight.
Midnight. Yep.
No, I'm sorry. The other mission is Forerunner, not Infinity. And Midnight, there are at least 2 that appear. So that could be the one you're referring to.
Okay. Well, there was one in Spartan Ops last night that I was playing, and maybe they just added it for Spartan Ops specifically. So I could be getting that mixed up.
Which episode were you playing?
7.
7? God, I can't wait to play that. I'm only on episode 2 right now.
You should listen to our podcast that we've been doing with Halo Fan for Life on.
I have to take a look at that. It might give me a little bit of prep work. Right now, I've been going to, in each and every chapter of Spartan Ops, completely blind on Legendary just to see how I play out.
So I have something to send you after the show of something that I've been working on. So yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, after the show, because I think you'll get it. I think you'll appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And I could definitely use a pair of eyes on it as well.
No, I'd be happy to.
So moving on, after you clean up the knights in that hold-off area, you actually go up some more branches, like a kind of a spiral S-curve type thing, and then you get to another IFF tag, and where the crates. And I think this is what you were actually mentioning earlier. And then you have the friendly icons that come up behind the door.
Yes.
So you get those guys out, and you enter the second cutscene, really. And Lasky meets Chief, and Captain Del Rio is pretty much calling everyone back to Infinity at that point. And so after this point, you want to go into the cutscene at all? I don't know how much into the lore-specific stuff.
No, it's just a really handsome guy talking to the Chief, and then a really hot Spartan saying, "Hey, I think you're cute." And I'm like, "Hey, I think you're cute too." Oh, wait, this is a video game.
So yeah, we do see Spartan Sarah Palmer in here. So she is part of the campaign, and they pretty much push out from there. After the cutscene, this is important. If you're going for terminals, your third terminal is right at that rally point. So Rally Point Bravo. Before you head down the ramp to the door, immediately look to your right, and you'll see the terminal. I hope I didn't just ruin that for you.
No, I haven't found any of the terminals yet, to be honest with you.
Okay. That's kind of one of the things that we're doing on here is pointing out terminals. So definitely, as you exit that cutscene, before you go to the door, immediately turn to your right, and that is where the terminal is.
Game has been out for almost 3 months, so I'm perfectly okay with spoilers.
Okay, just checking. So, of course, after that, or if you don't do that, go down the ramp, exit the door, and then you're open up to another area where there's crawlers. Thankfully, no binary rifle crawlers, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yes.
There is a knight that's under this tree-like thing. Like, there's roots coming from about 4 or 5 different spots on the ground, and they're kind of going up and merging into this one thing. So there's a knight all the way in the back over there. Take out the crawlers. There's some weapons there that you can pick up. There's Magnum ammo. There's DMR ammo. There's an assault rifle. So pick up anything you need from there. Grenades. And then push on through. If you get the knight out quickly, there's going to be, well, actually, depending on whether or not you get the knight out at all, there's going to be a second knight that spawns in. So you will be fighting 2 knights. That's a little tricky sometimes because people will start running and trying to get that one knight, and then another one will immediately spawn in. So watch out for the second knight as he comes in.
Now, also watch out because behind the second knight, if you get too close, there's a watcher that spawns behind him. So if you take him out and then you rush the area, make sure you take out that watcher very quickly because he will resurrect the knight.
Yeah, good point. Because that's
God
something
damn, I hate the watchers.
Yeah. Those things are a pain, especially when they go around reviving the dead. That's
those pinwheels, those floating pinwheels are so goddamn overpowered. Jeez, Why would they do that? And
Well, the knights are
in
overpowered to
campaign, they
begin
aren't
with.
that bad, but when you play Spartan Op, especially that third chapter in the first episode, wow, they spawn out of black holes out of nowhere.
I mean, the knights are hard enough to deal with already.
And then they have reinforcements, and they can spawn those reinforcements.
Yeah, that's a little cheap.
Yeah, it's extremely cheap.
Yeah.
Not happy with that.
No. Anyways, as you push up, you go through this kind of hairpin style thing, that ramp that you go up. And the second part that you come up is pretty simple. A few more crawlers and one knight that spawns up on a rock and then he comes down. You can actually get, I mean, like you said before, you can get behind a lot of these knights if you know where they spawn and backsmack them, do a nice assassination on them.
Easily.
So if you can do that, definitely take advantage of that. Just take out the crawlers really quickly and then get in position to assassinate the knight. Pretty simple. And when you go to your next area, this is the painful part of this mission. This is the place where you are going to be cursing if you're on Legendary and you get caught in a bind, especially when you don't have Marine support.
You're talking about the holdout area, and just a tip to throw out there, the holdout area has 3 distinct waves that spawn after you actually get to the turret. Now, there are 3 knights that initially spawn. Again, you want to take the turret on the far, if you're looking at the door, the far left-hand side closest to you. That is the safest place to be. And for the most part, you can easily take out everything from that turret. Again, if you lose your shields, there's an easy fallback point right behind you. If you're loaded up on DMR ammo, you can take out any crawlers that come up on the hill. Again, watch my Legendary guide. It pretty much spells it out for you, but it's not that bad as long as you're prepared for it.
All right. Well, the other thing to point out is if you're doing this for the achievement, which I'll get to in a bit, is just making sure those initial few Marines stay safe. Because they are being shot at as you get to the area, so definitely try to take out the crawlers and watchers that are shooting at the Marines from a distance and kind of clear them out quickly, and then slowly push up to the holdout area, taking out all the crawlers as you need to, and then focusing on the turrets and the knights that come in. There's a certain part where they won't spawn in until I think you get underneath that hollow trunk area.
Yeah, that's where the binary crawler is.
There's not a binary crawler in here, is there?
Believe it or not, there is. But like I said, the reason why most people don't notice it is because typically the Marines take him out first.
Okay.
But if they don't, yes, he will definitely get you. That was the one I was talking about earlier.
Oh, okay. So you jumped ahead a little bit.
I did jump ahead a little bit.
Okay,
my bad.
That's all right. So you can take out the Watchers before they spawn the turrets, and if you're able to do that, there's definitely more power to you. It will be very helpful in the end. So push on up, and I guess I'll go ahead and address this now, but there's the mission-specific achievement for this one is called Bros to the Close. It's for 20 gamer score, and you have to complete mission 4 without one preventable Marine death on heroic or harder. Now, the part it's talking about is this part right here, this holdout part. So from Rally Point Bravo on to after this holdout part is what they're talking about. Now, there is a funny glitch with this achievement. You have to actually do it from the beginning of the level. You can't start at Rally Point Bravo and go through and do the achievement, or at least I couldn't. I had to start from the very, very beginning of the level and then go through up until this point. So something to note when you're doing the achievement.
That's a pretty tough achievement too.
Yeah. So there are 6 Marines. If you do not have 6 Marines by the time you get to the holdout door and you actually have to do it, you'll want to go ahead and restart the mission just so you don't have to worry about having to hold out against all the Prometheans that are coming, because there's going to be a lot.
Oh, yeah.
But at the very end, make sure you have 6 Marines. If you don't have 6 Marines alive, that means you didn't complete the achievement. Because after this holdout part, it doesn't matter. You get the achievement about halfway down to the section after the holdout part. But if you're going for the achievement, make sure you have 6. 6 is the magic number here. Just pointing that out. I said 6 enough.
I'll have to remember that myself if I go for the achievement.
I've said 6 enough. Let's move on. So as you make your way up, you plug Cortana into the door, and she just said, hold off the Prometheans as I open the door. If you're doing this on co-op, it's going to be a breeze, even on Legendary, because you just have so much firepower. The crawlers are going to be really easy to take out. You just headshot those guys. The knights, the first ones that spawn in are very predictable. The ones afterwards are a little bit tougher to deal with, but it's pretty easy to take them down if you're doing it on co-op. And if you've managed to save Marines, they will actually go around and get on the turrets, which are lifesavers. Those turrets are one of the best things for this area. If you're doing it on Legendary Solo, those are even very useful to use just on the first few knights and crawlers, because they can probably take them out without you having to get off the turret too many times, and that first wave will pretty much be a cinch.
I couldn't agree more. Just a little note. If you see any crawlers assaulting the Marines, what will happen is the Marines will jump off the turrets. So you want to concentrate your fire on them if you want to keep the Marines on those turrets.
Because the Marines will, most of the time, if you can take out the crawlers, they'll be shooting the knights, which are the big baddies that you want to make sure you take out with as much firepower as you can.
Yes.
So you want to have the Marines focus on them. So you want to take out the crawlers as they come up. And you can get most of the crawlers because there's a good chunk of them. I want to say at least maybe 60-70% of them that are actually running all the way back down from where you came from. So you can actually, if you position yourself, if you're looking away from the door, there's 2 turrets on the right, 1 in front of you on the left. If you go over to the right, in the middle of the 2 turrets, you have a perfect line of sight down this kind of alley that they're going to be coming up. And you can just headshot them all day, and you're chewing through crawlers, and they're not even going to be a problem for you.
No.
You do have to watch out for Watchers. A few Watchers will actually come and fly in, and if some knights stay alive for too long, they'll actually spawn Watchers out of their back.
Yes, they will.
So if you see one of those, take them out as quickly, too. Knights are kind of a low priority when it comes to whenever you have a mix of Prometheans. You want to take out the crawlers because they're essentially like grunts. They're just kind of that extra
They actually
annoying...
remind me a lot of the Flood.
Like which
Basically,
ones?
just because there's a huge mass of them, and they just keep coming at you in waves and waves, and their goal, I mean, they do have firepower, but they just charge you.
Well, you couldn't exactly headshot Flood.
You could.
Unless it was the human variant.
Halo 1 was the only one that you really couldn't. In Halo 2, 3, and not in ODST. If you shot their chest cavity, it counted as a headshot.
Really?
And it went down in 1 hit. As long as the Flood combat form was unshielded.
Well, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't even really notice that to begin with.
That's why I'm here.
Alrighty. So, I compare them to grunts just because they're more of an annoyance, and you can just headshot them and they're gone. Granted, they move faster than grunts, and they're a little more intimidating, but...
And they have sniper weapons.
Yeah, some of them have sniper weapons, too. So, whenever you're fighting against these guys, definitely, at least, correct me if you think this is otherwise, but I would focus on crawlers first, watchers second, and then knights third.
Typically, I focus on watchers first, just because the watchers are funny, and that they can not only spawn in more crawlers, but they can also resurrect knights. So if you take out the crawlers first, or the watchers first, you can guarantee that you're not going to get any more crawlers. And if you take out the knights, then they're not going to get resurrected. So I would take out the watchers first, and not to mention they fly around, so they're kind of easy to hit. The crawlers second, and then once all those are gone, you can close in on the knight. And so, as I was talking about earlier with that grenade assassination, if you have nothing else, pinning on you, it's a lot easier to land that.
Okay. Because there were a lot of times when I ran out of ammunition.
Yeah.
And I was going back to those refills of railgun and DMR.
And also, don't forget in Infinity, particularly in that holdout section, if you don't take out the watchers first, they spawn those auto turrets, which shoot those long, beams of power at you.
Yeah, the big giant turrets.
Oh yeah.
Thankfully, that's only the part before the actual holdout sequence. They don't come and spawn them afterwards.
Yes.
So that's good. Moving on, after the hauled-out part, if you manage to get past it, which I think, in my opinion, that's the hardest part of this mission, is that part right there. Because I spent 2 hours on it
It's
2 nights
definitely
ago.
not easy.
And I'm like, nope, screw this. Granted, I didn't know about the catch grenade trick, so... Oh well.
Neither did I at the time.
So, moving on, after Cortana opens the door, you'll run through over to a landing zone where a Pelican is going to be able to come by and pick you up to take you back to Infinity. There's a knight standing pretty much at the entrance. You can go up and assassinate him, and then there's a mix of Promethean and Covenant in the area. Headshot the grunts and the jackals. Those are going to be pretty easy. There's a few crawlers. There's Promethean knights that are all the way in the back. Some of them will come up and slice you to pieces. I've had that happen quite a few times. There's a railgun in there as well, so if you actually take the railgun from the holdout area and then take it in with you, railguns don't seem as effective, but they...
Knights.
Yeah.
They sort of work like plasma pistols. One shot will remove their shields. So if you have a headshot weapon like a DMR or a light rifle, after you shoot them with a railgun, and that can be tough, by the way.
I love the railgun. It's my favorite weapon in the game.
It's a great weapon.
I love the railgun.
Have tested. Once you actually nail them once with the railgun, you can follow up with a couple of headshots. So I typically do, as Dustin said, bring a DMR, a full DMR, by the way, and a full railgun to the section that we're talking about now.
Right. That's going to be your best bet of getting through that.
Absolutely.
And there is a ledge up on the right side, like right as you get into there, where you can get a little bit better vantage point, and you can actually circle around to the right-hand side. There's a little tunnel that goes back there. So you can kind of go back and forth if you're having a hard time and kind of trick them of where you're going. So
there is, and by the way, I would say that for last just because there was a jackal marksman up there with a carbine. So if you feel like you're running low on ammo, you can kill him last, take his carbine, and continue with the headshots.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's also, I don't know how you feel about this, but I find the Needler is actually pretty effective against the Knights as well. Granted, you have to put
the Needler is a power weapon in Halo 4. I love it. In fact, if you've seen my Composer Legendary run, in prior Halo games, I would always use the plasma pistol and a headshot weapon like the pistol or the DMR or the battle rifle. But in Halo 4, the Needler is so powerful that you'd be a fool not to use it. So if it's available to you, by all means, use that over the plasma pistol.
Well, I believe there's already one that's kind of in that pit in the area there, and if not, there's I believe one of the jackals or grunts that are actually in there when you first get in the area. They have a Needler too.
They do. So if that knight if you either A, assassinate him, or B, he teleports away, which is typically the case. If you kill those grunts and jackals right away, you can easily get one of those Needlers. And for any Promethean knights that teleport to you, just pump them full of the needles.
Unload.
And it works like a charm.
Unload.
Remember, it takes about, I believe, 8 shots to do a super combine.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what the count is because I think it's a little bit different.
I just pump them in.
I think it's a little bit different in war games.
Huzzah.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit different in war games. But if you hold down the trigger for the Needler, it'll go off twice at least. If you connect most of your shots, it'll super combine at least twice.
It won't take any more than 2 super combines to kill any enemy.
Right. And that's mainly just for the elites and the knights. You can get everything else with pretty much 1 super combine.
You're exactly right. Basically, save the Needler for elites and knights. Even though you won't, unfortunately, have that option for the knights very often. But it will be there for the elites. So again, for the knights, as Dustin was referring to earlier, the scatter shot's a great weapon. And in this particular case in Infinity, since the Needler can be sort of hard to get since you have to sort of venture out in that area a little bit, the railgun is an awesome option.
Yeah, I love the railgun. Absolutely love the railgun.
It's an excellent weapon.
I love it. All right. After you kill everyone there, you get the Phantom that comes in, picks you up, and takes you to Infinity, or at least close to Infinity. I'm sorry. Pelican.
I was
I've
like,
been
Master Chief's a traitor?
So I've been writing a Spartanoffs document, and this is the thing I'm going to show you later. So I've been going through, and there's actually been points where I've swapped Phantom for Pelican, and it's like, oh crap. So they both start with P's, and they're both the same kind of ship, so I get them verbally
No,
mixed up
you're
sometimes.
right. I've actually done it myself a few times in my guides.
Oh, that's kind of
Yeah, I
it's like,
know.
oh,
Well,
I'm
keep in
sorry,
mind, I
guys.
usually drink when I'm doing my guides as well, because I do them all live. So,
I see.
well, it helps me play better. I mean, you can't deny it.
To a certain extent, there is Balmer's Peak.
Yeah, this is true.
There is Balmer's Peak. Anyways, you go into your next area, and Cortana's like, show him how it's done. Show him how a real Spartan is able to take out the Covenant. So you get your first chance in a tank. This is your tank
Yes.
run. You were going to say something?
No. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, so this is the tank run. This is going to be so much fun.
Oh, yes.
So hop in the Scorpion, drive along, and you're basically going through just this massive Covenant. There's going to be ghosts, there's going to be wraiths, there's going to be sniper towers, and you're just going to have a ball.
I actually had a lot of trouble getting aboard the tank just because of that wraith. So what I found is if you take care of those initial grunts and jackals first, the ones who would typically overcharge you, granted, you have to be fast about it, but if you can do that, then jump in the tank, you have a much better chance of surviving.
So yeah, I just kind of run for the tank, and I take out a few enemies and then just make a mad dash for the tank.
That's the way to do it.
And then of course just take out the enemies as you go. There's not a wraith that spawns there at the beginning.
There is. There's a wraith that emerges from the tunnel.
Yeah,
and
but
he just starts shelling you. And I've been so unlucky on my no deaths legendary runs that it only takes one hit from the wraith to kill my scorpion.
I thought you had some time before it actually decided to come around the corner.
You do, but not very much. You basically have enough time to take out a couple of enemies, then jump in the scorpion, and then drive to one of the sides as fast as you can just to get some cover.
Okay. All right. So after you take out that wraith, you're gonna go around some corners. You're gonna be weaving in and out of areas. You'll come up on Covenant that are walking by. You'll come up on a couple of sniper towers. Gonna kind of jump ahead here a little bit.
Go ahead.
And once you get to a good clear opening, about 4 or 5 sniper towers later, you come up on another wraith. Definitely, as soon as you see the sniper towers, take out the sniper towers, because I think a good portion of them have fuel rod grunts.
Oh yes.
And then there's ghosts around, so I would definitely focus on taking out ghosts personally, because they'll just pepper you all day.
Yes, they will.
The wraiths you can typically dodge, because you can see them just coming off in the distance, so you can predict.
As long as you keep your distance with the wraiths, yes, you can very easily dodge them.
Yeah, so make sure you dodge those as much as you can, and focus on the ghosts, and then focus on the infantry last, because they're going to be the least of your problems. It's the big guns that you really want to worry about. And of course, if you see a fuel rod grunt or something equivalent, definitely take that out as soon as possible.
Yes.
As you go around after the wraith encounter there, you'll go through another area, and then another wraith will come up on you. And there are ghosts along the way, so I'm not pointing out the ghosts because they're just kind of scattered everywhere. But after going through another kind of long stretch and you see more debris of Infinity, you're going to have another sniper tower and another wraith. Take those out from a distance and you'll be okay, and then you can keep on traveling through. There'll be another sniper tower, and then you pretty much get to this big battle area where there's just a lot of Covenant. Just kind of stay back, shoot them all off. Some of them you can probably just drive right through and you'll just run them over. And all the infantry stuff in this kind of Rally Point Charlie area. I think there's 4 rally points on here, so this is Rally Point Charlie. You can drive past a good chunk of them. You don't have to kill every enemy here. So that is something to note.
Yes.
As you drive through, you finally get to a loading dock elevator that you can go up. Just take your tank up. You can drive in. You'll close the doors and they'll take the tank up with you, and for a good reason, because when you get up there, you're going to have hunters.
Oh, yeah.
So you will want to, and even on Legendary, this is a pain because you have very little wiggle room. So when those hunters shoot at you, there's a higher chance they're going to hit you. So focus on the hunters first. Just
And
get
there are
some.
also fuel rod grunts up there, too.
Yeah.
They're not quite as big of a threat, though, because, let's face it, you are the Scorpion tank. It's one-hit kill.
Right. I would worry a little bit more about the hunters.
Absolutely.
If the grunts become too much of an issue, I mean, take a shot at them. You'll probably get some splash damage and get some other enemies out, but quickly go back to the hunters because they will be a pain for you.
Yes, they will.
And then after a little while, you'll drive around a little bit more, take out all the enemy covenant, and then you get to move on to the next area where you get to drive a mantis.
Yes.
So first time in the game where we get to drive the new mechanical or the new mech.
Halo's first mech.
Indeed. So what do you think of the mech?
I'm not going to lie. I'm very impressed with it. I always wondered how a mech would play out in Halo. At first, when I saw the preview for the mech before Halo 4 came out, I thought it would be extremely overpowered, but of course the Scorpion could take it out pretty easily. But no, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the Infinity's run through of the mech, except for the last section, which of course we'll get to in a minute. But I wasn't a huge fan of the composer part. It just seems like you're stuck in one area, just firing everything you have, going Rambo style.
Yeah,
and hoping for the best.
That one's an interesting one.
Yeah. But I think it's an excellent addition to the Halo series. I'm very excited to use it. I actually used it in one of my 3 games that I've actually played online. And the first thing that I did was use the stop move and killed 3 of my teammates.
Yeah, you have that few games that you can count how many war games matches you have.
Yeah, that just explains or shows you how very rare I play multiplayer. I'm so into campaign and the Spartan Ops that I very rarely set foot in the multiplayer. And of course, as soon as I did, I killed my own teammates by accident because I wasn't prepared to. But they knew it was me somehow. They were like, "Oh, we're just glad to have you." I was like, God, that feels weird.
All right, fair enough. So once you get in the Mantis, you have to blow the doors open. So this is kind of the mini tutorial of how to use the Mantis. You get to shoot the doors open that won't open for some reason.
No. I'm guessing because the ship is disabled.
Maybe. I mean, it's not that disabled, I would think.
But who knows? You know, I'm sure they just wrote it into the plot and said, here you go.
You know, for how much the breather was, them being able to get out that quickly is still kind of a mystery to me.
You know, I agree.
I mean, I know Infinity's huge, and the amount of rubble that we did see is in perspective, somewhat minimal, but still.
All I can think of is just Infinity must be this just juggernaut spaceship that
it is 3 miles long.
So much damage, which is just phenomenal. I mean, it's got to be the size of a city. I keep thinking, in terms of Infinity, it's got to be the size of one of those ships from Independence Day.
So, actually, I think there was a podcast I was listening to. I forget which one it is. It was either Drunken Halo or Post Game Carnage Report, where
I like the title of that podcast.
Where they were doing a comparison between the Independence Day ships and then Covenant ships.
There's actually not too many similarities. I mean, you know, Independence Day, they're all basically giant flying saucers, and in Halo, they're all big teardrops. In Independence Day, they have one primary weapon in the center. In Halo, they didn't really get that primary weapon in the center until Halo Reach. Otherwise, it was at the front of the ship, which is personally where I think it belonged.
Well, so the glassing part is just the one that's in the middle of the ship.
Yeah.
Like, the primary stuff is still, like, on the edges of the teardrop is where their primary firing mechanisms are.
Right.
So, yeah.
And there are some similarities, but like in Independence Day, it was basically a slow atomic bomb. You know, as soon as it detonated, you see this wall of fire just very slowly expand out through the city. With Halo, was just instant death.
Yeah. I forget how big Halo is. That probably is a fact I should know.
Halo's big.
Yeah, it is big. It is big.
It better be. And that's what
Um,
she said.
wow. Moving on. As you walk through the interior of Infinity, you'll come up upon many groups of Covenant and Prometheans. There's going to be some bridges that are going to be overhead as you're walking through. You can shoot those down, although I find that's kind of pointless because the enemies that are up there most of the time aren't really going to affect you that much. I think
You'd be surprised. Some of those enemies are fuel rod grunts.
well, so yeah, that was going to be my caveat was sometimes there's fuel rod grunts, but I find a good portion of the time they're still kind of just running around like the typical things that the grunts do when they just run around. It's like ah.
Oh yeah.
So there's most of the time I see them just doing that. So you can concentrate a little bit more fire of what's directly in front of you. And there are a couple of places where some of those Promethean turrets have spawned. So you definitely want to make sure you keep an eye out for those. They don't do too much damage to the Mantis itself, but they will drain your shields really quickly.
Oh yeah.
The Mantis has an adequate amount of health, but combined with the fact that the shields are very easily taken out and it takes so long for them to regenerate, you definitely want to keep it at a steady pace as you're walking through these areas.
No, you couldn't be more right. I mean, the Mantis can take quite a bit of punishment, but if you don't overestimate it. If you get there and you're caught too much in the firepower, you will go down. One way to tell is if your Mantis starts burning. That's when you know you're in trouble.
Right. At that point, you really got to be careful. Now, there's kind of two different stages of burning. There's one where it's like you're on fire in most of the places, but then there's another stage where it's like you're on fire and you're smoking. At that point, that's when you're like, okay, you either need to be very, very careful or you need to get out and find another Mantis.
Immediately.
And I actually haven't gone around to look if there's actual other Mantises within the interior. I know there's two on the exterior when you get out there.
That is correct.
Okay. So I haven't taken the time to actually go and look around otherwise. I haven't explored that area quite as probably some other people have.
As far as I know, there's no other Mantises in the initial trench run of the Mantis, I guess if that's what you want to call it. But as you said, when you get to the outdoor area where there's the MAC gun and the missile launchers, there are two additional Mantises that you can obtain.
Right. Yeah, and those are off to the sides.
Yes.
So I guess we'll go ahead and jump to that because the rest of it's just pretty much simple. You're walking through and you're killing everything in sight. Once you get outside, this is probably the second hardest part of this mission. Although I don't find it as it's too difficult, but it can still slow you down and be somewhat painful.
Oh yes.
So as far as strategy goes, what you want to do is stay back and take out the two jammers that the Covenant have set up. You can just shoot those with the machine gun, or you can just unload your missiles at them, and they'll go down pretty quickly. Those are the easy parts. It's the parts that come up afterwards that are the really, really difficult parts.
There is, and this is where I'm going to step in because
go for it.
Believe it or not, one way to make this portion easier, there are 3 waves of Covenant that you have to worry about after you take out the jammers. Now, if you advance forward to the frontward part of the platform, whether you're under the MAC gun or over there to the left, where there's a little bit more cover, you could actually skip 1.5 waves of Covenant. The second wave will not spawn at all. It'll skip right to the third. And instead of 2 Phantoms dropping for the third wave, it'll just be 1.
Hang on. So say that one more time, because I think I heard you, but I just want to make sure.
Okay. The first wave you can't avoid. And
okay, that's
basically
fine.
What you want to do is assault the front part of the platform, basically the closest part to the Didact ship.
Okay.
Now, once you've done that, the second wave of enemies will not spawn at all.
Really?
Really. You can actually watch my video on it. Cortana basically skips her dialogue and goes right to the final bit. The third wave of enemies will spawn, but instead of 2 Phantoms dropping, it's just 1. So you could skip 1.5 waves by staying in the front. Now, in my video, I stay under the Mac gun. What I didn't realize at the time is that you don't have to stay under the Mac gun. RC Master inadvertently, and he didn't even realize this till I examined his video, did the same thing by going to the front of the platform and to the far left where there's actually a little bit more cover, so you're a little bit more safer. So if you go over there, you've got more cover, and you still skip 1.5 waves, which makes that part of the mission immensely easier.
I did not know this.
Well, that's why I'm here today.
Wow. All right. Interesting. I'll have to try that out at some point.
Tyrant's Halo 4 Legendary Guide, Infinity.
Alrighty then. So, after, if you decide to do all three, or if you manage to do the whole cut-through thing, which I'll have to try later, then you'll go back and you have to activate the Infinity defenses, and that's just getting out and hitting a switch.
It is, and I'm going to recommend that as soon as you hit that switch, jump back into your Mantis because Banshees can still attack you.
Yes, that is true. At this point, depending on what difficulty you're on, hopefully you've grabbed another Mantis.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah.
Completely agreed. Although I have seen people do it with one, it's not a bad idea. If you can rush another Mantis, do it. But wait till there's a lull in the battle.
Alright. Good to know, good to know. Alright, so after everything's said and done, we have Infinity finally being able to take off. The Didact flies away after he gets shot with the railgun a few times. Too much we haven't been able to see more of that railgun in use. That'd be pretty cool. Probably to see it in Spartan Ops too. That'd be nice to see. So as the Didact flies off, we go back inside, and we have everyone's kind of gathered around this central pedestal. Chief's there, Lasky's there, Cortana's on the display as well. Del Rio, who's captain of the Infinity, is there as well. And we get into a scene where Captain Del Rio is trying to figure out what the Knights are and where they came from. Basically saying that on the other installations or the other Forerunner-like places, they haven't encountered this kind of resistance before. And then Chief is like, what other installations? Lasky
you know what
comes
bothers
in.
me? His name is Del Rio, but he doesn't look Hispanic at all in the least.
Not really, no.
He's very Caucasian.
Very much so. Lasky butts in and says that they've discovered installations 5 and 3, and they've been doing research since then. And then at that point, Del Rio is basically, or actually Spartan Palmer comes in and says that, was it Gypsy Company? Or something like that. Gypsy Company's ready to move out. And Chief kind of takes like, what exactly are you doing? Del Rio's like, well, following protocol here, we gotta figure out a way to get out of, or get off of Requiem and take an actual assessment of the situation and kind of come back later after we've made a full determination of what's going on and decide what we're going to do. So, and of course, Chief is like, well, look at the thing we've done. We've just driven the Didact back. Are we really thinking about leaving now? And Del Rio's like, it's protocol, dude. we're leaving. So that pretty much wraps up this mission. I think we covered pretty much a lot of strategy, not as much story in here as I think some of the other ones. There definitely are tidbits of at least this last cutscene. That's the really big one. Just kind of seeing the interaction of Chief starting to kind of question the UNSC and kind of look at the bigger picture, take on a bigger role more than just following orders. So this is going to play a lot more into the campaign, especially in the next mission. At the end of that mission, we're going to see a huge shift in the Chief's attitudes towards following directions and orders.
Yes, which is definitely a first for the Halo series.
Yeah. I do like the story for the campaign. I thought they did a fantastic job with it. I thought it was one of the most complex storylines in the Halo game to date.
It's the only Halo game to ever make me cry.
I'm trying to remember.
It's the ending that did it.
Yeah, no, the very end of this one, I definitely teared up as well. There were certain parts of Halo 3 where I kind of teared up too.
Really?
Yeah. Seeing Johnson die was kind of one of those parts.
Yeah, I was kind of ashamed to see him go.
Yeah. And then at the very end when they were having Chief's funeral, I definitely cried during that. I did cry during that part.
It's definitely just seeing Cortana finally go was like, really? No.
Well, that's still yet to be seen.
Yeah, that's true. I'm going to be very interested to see if she returns in Halo 5.
She will. I'm pretty sure.
Which is sad because, that was such an iconic death for
Yeah, that's another podcast.
her.
And we've already touched on it once in one of our podcasts, but that's definitely something else that we'll cover.
Yes, and I cannot wait to hear that podcast.
So, again, thank you to Mythic Tyrant for coming on and doing this walkthrough with us. Of course, you can find him over on YouTube. You want to plug all your social media stuff and websites real quick before we leave?
Yes, again, if you want to, you can follow me. My main site is mythictyrant.com, where you can find all of my single-segment legendary walkthroughs for Halo Anniversary, Halo 2, 3, ODST, Reach, and of course, Halo 4. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter, which is twitter.com/Mythic Tyrant. And of course, my Facebook page has an extremely long number attached to it. But if you go to mythictyrant.com, there is a link there. So please follow. I will give you tips every week for Halo 4, and it is my pleasure. I am very happy that 343 Industries is so talently carrying the torch for Halo very well.
Very nice. All right. So we will see you guys on our next mission.